Bienvenidos al podcast de Latino Founder Hour.
Each week, we invite you to spend an in-depth hour with us as we speak with a Latino startup founder from somewhere around the world.
Aquí conocerás esas historias de éxito y fracasos, retos personales y lecciones aprendidas.
And we have fun. We're live every Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. Tune in at startupradionetwork.com.
O en versión podcast después del show. Escucha,
listen,
aprende,
learn,
y emprende.
Launch.
Muy buenas tardes, como les saluda Edgar Navas desde Portland, Oregon, en esta bella mañana del febrero 16 de 2018. Pues un día más todavía le mandamos un saludo a mi colega Claudia Cárdenas, que en este momento sigue convaleciente. Claudia, te mando un abrazo, un beso, pronta recuperación y esperamos que la próxima semana ya te encuentres con nosotros de regreso en el show aquí en Portland, en el centro. Pues bueno, gracias por seguirnos a toda nuestra fanaticada. Esperamos que tengan una muy bonita mañana. Y el día de hoy vamos a tener como invitado especial a Armando Osuna desde Silicon Valley, nuestro primer invitado que no va a estar en cabina, pero lo tenemos ya en vivo y en directo. Armando, no sé si nos escuchas. ¿Cómo estás? Muy buenos días. Un placer tenerte aquí en el Latino Founder Hour en Startup Radio Network. ¿Estás por ahí?
Edgar, ¿cómo estás?
Muy bien, un placer, ¿eh? A ver, ¿si nos escuchas, Armando?
Sí, loud and clear.
Loud and clear. Entonces, a ver, Armando, una pregunta. ¿Te sientes más a gusto en inglés o en español? ¿Cómo ves?
Spanglish, los dos.
Spanglish, pues así nos la tiramos. Oye, pues un placer, Armando. Oye, nada más, pues mira, desde Portland te saludamos. No sé cómo está el clima por allá en Silicon Valley. Estuve viendo tus perfiles y pues la verdad muy impresionado con lo que has hecho, ¿eh? Nada más ahora sí queríamos pues que nos cuentes un poco qué es lo que estás haciendo y quién es Armando Osuna. Cuéntanos de dónde vienes, cómo llegaste para que nuestra audiencia vaya conociendo de dónde vienes.
Sí, pues my family was born and raised in San Diego. Lived there pretty much my whole life. Family's still there. The beautiful part is my father is from Tijuana, Mexico, from Baja California. So is my mother.
Okay.
And ultimately, I pretty much only spoke Spanish until the age of 5. And it was a decision from my mother after that point to really immerse myself in the English language. And she started buying me a bunch of English books, and as I started to learn English, she started to learn English, and so did my father. And I also have two beautiful sisters, an older sister and a younger sister. We are all college graduates, all first generation, so the very first to make it.
Amazing.
And yeah, it's been a beautiful journey, and I think when you look at the idea of the American dream, I don't believe a mother or father could be prouder than having all their kids be college graduates when they themselves, couldn't do it themselves, but they built the platform and they set us up for that type of success.
That's great. That's a fantastic story. And I'm sure your parents are, incredibly proud of you guys. Just to be able to see, the fruits of their labor and all the sacrifices, just come to fruition. I mean, I don't think there's anything better for a parent than that. The satisfaction to see, this is the greatest success I've ever had. Pues,
yeah, and I think that's the funny part. It's like, while that's their greatest success, I still always wanted to push myself to be the best I could be. So I didn't just accept that college is the end all. For me, that was just the springboard into really going after the opportunities and chasing the dreams that I was really passionate about. And to be quite honest, for me, I didn't realize I was into technology for such a long time because I didn't realize I was really interacting with it. 1996, my mother buys the first Dell computer, and she puts it in the family, office, and just like everyone else, we're using the internet, and we're on Netscape Navigator, and
I remember those days.
Right, Edgar. Then we get the AOL disc.
Yeah.
And you get the 1,000 free hours, and they'd lock you in. And, you know, but it was fascinating to me. It was fascinating that I was the type of person who always wanted to seek more and more information. And I finally had an opportunity that sat outside of books, and it was something that felt so real that I could just think of something, type it in, and see if something popped up. And to me, that experience is, I think, what really ended up taking me to Silicon Valley. But, you know, I remember those dial-up modem days, and I would load an article, go to the refrigerator, make a bowl of cereal, come back 5 minutes later, the article would be there, and then I would read it. And to me, it was just fascinating. I was like, how does this happen? Who's doing this? Who is making these products? And I think to me, that was essentially the first time I ever touched technology and really wanted to be a part of, I believe, what we call Silicon Valley today.
Oh wow, that's amazing. So when did you go? When did you move to the Silicon Valley? Did you just move for college, or did you move after college?
So I would say, so it was definitely after college. And, you know, I actually, the way that I got there, it's like, you know, no one ever takes a straight path, right?
Correct.
I think, you know, the path to what you want and to follow your dreams is always a zigzag. And, you know, sometimes there's a lot of setbacks. So actually my first, once I graduated from the University of Southern California, go Trojans.
Go Trojans, yes.
Yeah, in 2005, you know, went to the Marshall School of Business, did as best as I could. But I think what the beautiful thing about the USC network is that it's a network, it's a family. And so I got a few opportunities, and I actually started off in the advertising agency world.
Okay.
And so
interesting.
Yeah. So I was like a, you know, online media buyer, and I was dealing with, you know, banner ads and working with different ad networks. And obviously this is 2007, 2008. So back then, we would rely on the advertisers to tell us the performance and the success of our campaigns, right? There was no kind of third party that was verifying those claims. So you're kind of flying blind, but because, you know, our clients were really interested in just attempting to put something onto the internet and put their advertising onto the internet, it was something that to me was very enjoyable. But that kind of led me to understanding that the part I like about advertising is the digital piece and the fact that you can touch so many people with a piece of creative or with a message. And so that job actually was in La Jolla, California, down in San Diego. And I knew that if I wanted to be a serious person in advertising, if I wanted to be a madman, I needed to get out to New York City.
Oh, wow. So you just crisscross the country.
Yeah, I had to. You know, I felt like Madison Avenue is where the mecca of advertising. So I've always been that type of person. I've always realized, like, if I'm going to do something, I want to be in the heart of it all. I want to be in the hustle and the bustle. So, you know, I put my resume out and got a couple of really interesting opportunities. But the one that really stuck out was this company an agency called the New American Agency, D'Exposito and Partners. And the agency was led by a Latina woman, Daisy D'Exposito Uya, who recently was named Ad Color's Woman of the Year.
Oh, okay.
This is a woman who worked at Y&R, Bravo, these really big multicultural agencies, and she ventured out and started her own. And it was the New American Agency, and she founded the agency with her husband, Jorge Uya, a very famous documentarian, and he was the chief creative officer. And together they built this really, the way I like to see it is almost like a Voltron of talent, right? They had people at the top of their game, but they were Latino. And so I came into the agency as their head of digital. And, you know, she saw in me a young person who could relate to this kind of transformation that America was going through, where, you know, it was the first generation people who kind of had got the college education and realized that the world was bigger, but they were kind of in these both worlds where they were still tied to their roots. But at the same time, they're still in this new America. And I think that's why she appropriately named it that. And there I managed really big accounts. So, you know, I worked on the McDonald's business. I worked on Conagra, Mazda, AARP. I worked on the 2010 U.S. Census, and we won Media Campaign of the Year by Adweek. So it was a great success.
Now, were you working with these large corporations, you know, trying to target the Latino market, or just in general, the regular campaigns?
We were going after Latinos.
Okay.
And so it was really interesting because like I told you before, it's like I'm comfortable and like I can understand Spanish to a T perfectly. I can speak English. I can kind of go in both of these worlds, and that was my target. That was always my target. So to me, it was like I was almost advertising and speaking to myself. And Latinos nowadays, it's like a remezcla, right? It's like this remix of people who are kind of touching hip hop, touching food culture, also influencing hip hop, also influencing food culture, influencing politics. Influencing America when they don't even realize they're being influenced by us. So that to me was always the way that I approached every single campaign. If it was McDonald's, I would always look at it from the eyes of potentially a kid in Washington Heights, right? A Dominican.
Yeah.
And
I know that area perfectly well. Yeah.
Right. And so, like they're so passionate, they're so flavorful, but I knew that, hey, I need to get cheeseburgers in front of these guys. Are they going to be interested in cheeseburgers? Probably not, but they're going to be interested in the message of, hey, if it's not about the cheeseburger, it's about the ability to hang out with your friends. And
it's the ability it's experience.
Exactly, because that's exactly how I always thought of these different campaigns, and ultimately, it's what made I think it really successful. And I think the years I was there, I don't want to just toot my own horn, but McDonald's had record sales in when I was running a lot of their business.
And that demographic,
Exactly.
I mean, it's impressive how you can reconcile, the mofongo culture with the McDonald's, the fast food where they sit down, slow meal, slow cooked meal, family. But it's a completely different experience. But like you said, this is a mix where, you still keep part of your heritage, but now you're adopting other set of values, and there's nothing wrong with one or another. I mean, I think it's fantastic, for us to be able to enjoy a taco and a taco stand. Which, by the way, I've recently read that the taco is now the number one food in the United States. So come on, we got a round of applause.
There you go. I love me a good taco, and it's so true because the word Taco Tuesday.
Yeah.
That is now synonymous for your coworkers going out on Tuesday and really having an experience and hanging out with each other. And I see it here in San Francisco in areas like the Marina, which is predominantly very high tech workers, very affluent, to the Mission, right, to South of Market, which is Soma. And it's just a thing where it's a food that's becoming synonymous like pizza around the world. I've traveled a lot around the world, and I've been to places. I work for companies who've had bases in Germany, bases in, places in the Middle East, the UK, Brazil. And it's funny that everywhere you go, there's always a place that sells what they consider,
exactly,
Mexican style tacos. And you're going to get some funny tacos in Germany. I'm going to tell you that much.
I've seen them. Yeah, they're. I mean, what we call in Mexico is not the same, but it's it's a taco. Whatever. It's
I lived in Tokyo for 10 years. So
and they're different
tacos.
Yeah. Hey, shout out to my friend Shota Ito La Sexta in Tokyo, one of the best Mexican places outside of the U.S. and Tokyo.
I'm going to go there next time. Thank you.
Yeah, Shota, if you're listening.
Tokyo is definitely an interesting city. I think that's a city where, I was there last October, and I think the thing that struck me the most was the uniformity and the cleanliness.
An order.
It can be a little much after a while.
Yeah.
But the interesting piece though is the subcultures. How there's this word in Japanese called otaku, right? And it's basically when you are really into something, you throw your life into that commitment. And whether it's hip hop, where I would be walking in the streets of Shibuya and I would see these Japanese kids with dreadlocks and baggy clothes and really dark tans and gold chains and because they really buy into the hip hop culture and it's to me it's fascinating because I think if everyone approached something that they really felt passionate about, like in the spirit of the Japanese and in the spirit of otaku, I think they would be surprised on the outcomes, and they'd be surprised in essentially what they could accomplish.
They also don't have any problem with appropriating over there. So, like, appropriation, they're like, what's wrong? I'm totally just paying homage to this great thing. They don't see it.
And we've seen it with the Japanese cholos, making homage to the LA culture, which is, I think, it's fascinating.
I've always wondered what Latinos think about that. That's interesting that you think it's cool.
Yeah, I think it's funny. Right I think it's awesome. Yeah, it's like some people take offense, and we've heard that cultural appropriation term here. So
Sure.
like, come on, please. I mean, it's if you make tacos, if you go and quote unquote steal a recipe,
that was messed up.
but you make it better. I have no problem with that at all.
Yeah, that they got kicked out of town. That was just so
Yeah,
weird.
I don't know if you heard about that, Armando, but we had an issue here in Portland with that, the cultural appropriation and blah blah. But it's
Really?
Yeah.
What was the issue? Was
Well-
it similar to what Kendall Jenner experienced when she kind of had the Indian garments for that for that Vogue cover that she was doing?
Oh,
or
no,
was
no,
it
no,
something
no,
that was
that-
more about the?
It was more about food. It was a pair of gals from Portland that traveled to Mexico, and I believe it was Colima or Guadalajara. I can't remember exactly where. They found out, how to make tortillas. This great tortillas. So they came back to the U.S., to Portland specific, and decided to make a business, which is, hey, fantastic. You just learn how to make tortillas. You're going to make it better, make a business out of it, out of a food cart or just like a VW bus. Something very artisan. There were some people up in arms. And let me tell you, it wasn't the Latino community. There were people up in arms about cultural appropriation. It was all over our, free newspapers. We can mention names, but I and the rest of our friends are just laughing in the background, like look at all these people up in arms. I'm like, well, this is not right. How dare they? What are they? The millennials? And like, well, I thought it was great.
I guess they gave some interview and they said something like, "We watched grandmothers make tortillas through the windows, and that's what set everybody off." And they were probably just playing with words.
Yeah, I mean, I look at someone like Chef Rick Bayless, and Chef Rick Bayless. I think he's obviously he's an American guy, but he's thrown himself into the Mexico culture, and he has one of my favorite food travel shows.
Oh, absolutely.
Because you see that he's passionate about it, and is that appropriation because he's white? No, I think he's, like you said, he's paying homage. So I think people are very. It's an environment right now where people are very quick to judge and very sensitive, and I see it. I mean, myself. I mean, to be honest, as being a person who has a tan skin, and when I'm in board meetings and when I'm in investor pitches, I don't see myself in anyone. But at the same time, I'm not there to prove my worth. I'm not there to prove my smarts. Because the mere fact that I'm in the room should be enough to tell you that I know what's going on and I know what I'm talking about. So at that point, I'm always one of the first to. I'm myself. If I am typically business casual at all types of meetings, I'm not a type to wear a tie. I just like to be very authentic, and I think people appreciate that. And I think one person that I can kind of relate to is Gary Vaynerchuk. And Gary is a person who. Is a very big Jets fan. He talks about it all the time. He got a lot of his start by starting Wine TV, which was one of the first YouTube channels to essentially, highlight wine and kind of bring wine to the masses and kind of make it something that, hey, it's not just for rich people. You can go buy some decent wine for like $12 a bottle.
Yeah.
And right. And so I think being authentic is something that people appreciate more. And I think you're more relatable. And I think when you put your guard down like that, you can really get to what people are about. And I think putting yourself in people's shoes, which is, to me, I think when I'm looking to invest in someone, I look at, do they have empathy? Because to me, empathy is the strongest signal of intelligence, because it's something you've had a lot of life experience, but it also tells me that you can see it from my perspective and I can see it from your perspective. And to me, there's nothing more fascinating than hearing someone's story, but then also me trying to find a way, how can I relate to this person? And when you find that wavelength, I mean, at that point, that's when magic happens. And then,
exactly. That's when a relationship clicks in. Hey, Armando, let me make a quick shout out to one of our sponsors, Morris and D'Angelo, CPAs Extraordinaire, where accounting is never boring. The price is not based on time, where customers decide the value to them. Just visit their website, cpadudes.com/startup radio. That's cpadudes.com/startup radio. Whether slow, fast, it is included. They do not charge or send invoices for phone calls, email, text, or meetings. So again, Morris and D'Angelo. But Armando, thanks. This is a great insight, and like you were saying, that part of the empathy, and that's where we also see how do we click with customers, how do we click? In particular, I'm the founder of a startup as well, and we've been in the same trying to pitch to investors. And obviously, we come from a Latino background, and we're trying to solve a humongous Latino immigrant problem. For 50 million Hispanic immigrants in the U.S. And it's been really hard to try to get the big VC funds to understand, number one, the problem, because you can't empathize something that you have never experienced. So big problem for them. So you can't put them to, and nothing to blame. I mean, it's just it's a different life experience. So right from the get go, we already have a barrier that we're I want to say different skin tone, but also we're coming up with a solution to a problem that they don't even know they exist, and it's a large enough problem. So I totally see it with you. And I recently just had a pitch to a VC fund here in Portland, and I could see the faces, and luckily we had a couple of boosters in the crowd. And they try to explain in their own terms to their colleagues. I was like, look, you guys, this is the problem that these people face. Again, it's not a problem that we, you and I are educated, but also found out through just experience. So like, how the migrants, that come to the U.S. to do the hard work that nobody else wants to do, what kind of conditions they have. They don't have access to information, to technology, and that's what we're aimed to do. Simplify technology so they can utilize it at no cost, and they get the products that they already need in their palms, in their devices. So it's that to us has been the uphill battle. And we on the side, we've been growing organically, and by the way, we're streaming this live on our social media feeds that are have been just clearing house. So we're pretty happy with the result. But again, it's just a part where we really haven't.
It's tricky. It can be tricky, because ultimately we're gonna every investor that you add. Is essentially needs to be a value add, and you yourself have to understand that you cannot let, for lack of a better word, desperation of funding allow you to take any type of money, allow you to take any type of investment. I was talking to a French founder recently, and the French government is really aligning itself into breaking into Silicon Valley. I'm an advisor at an accelerator called the Refiners.
Okay.
The Refiners was founded by Geraldine Lemure. She's the ex-wife of Loic Lemure, who is the founder of Le Web, which was one of the largest tech conferences in Europe. And along with her and Carlos Diaz, they essentially set out to build a pipeline of French engineers and French founders into Silicon Valley so they can essentially build their relationships, allow them to build their relationships so that ultimately they can attract funding. Well, the tricky part is that, the French government also wants a piece of the action, right? And that's how they see it. They see that now as more and more of their college graduates are going into the tech world and maybe not ignoring law, not ignoring, medical, they're just more interested in this. The French government's like, well, we'll give you money, but we're going to give you money, and obviously it's going to be the terms are going to be very beneficial for us. So I literally talked to a founder. He had a fantastic product. Essentially, it was a Q&A testing environment for your application, and I was like, okay, well, who are your investors? What does this all look like? And really, the French government owned 90% of his company, and they had only given him $250,000.
Oh, wow.
But because he needed the money, and because he was like, I just need to pay some bills. I need to pay some of these engineers. I need to pay some of my guys. I'm going to take this funding. So it really left, his cap table was really just messed up. And there was no opportunity for me to invest. As much as I wanted to, I couldn't, because I was like, you need to somehow buy them out, or you need to figure out a way to dilute them to a point where you can then take outside investors, because this is going to be a problem for you.
Absolutely.
Really, really smart guy, but it's hard being an entrepreneur.
It's what?
Hard.
I hear the same story. I just came back from a week in Mexico City, where the startup community has been thriving and growing tremendously. Exactly the same problem. So this is a forum. This new project, the Latino Startup Founder Hour. It's trying to give us founders and entrepreneurs or wannabe entrepreneurs a platform to connect. And what I hear is exactly the same. You just told us about France. verbatim in Mexico, where there's the appetite for risk, but there the private sector wants to invest, but in the same terms. You know what, you're going to work for me. I'm going to squeeze everything out of you. I'm going to own your company. And we've been giving conferences and talks. Say, look, it's great. It's appreciated that you have the appetite for risk, to go into this uncharted territories as an investor. But also, you keep in mind that when you give those terms, you're pretty much extinguishing the flame that entrepreneur, the vision that he or she had. So it's a risky proposition, and I think they're aligning themselves a little bit more with Silicon Valley. There's a couple of funds that have been working with Mexico City, but I mean it's in its infancy and it's growing. It's getting there. But again, we're hearing the same echoes, and I think we had some people in Colombia telling us exactly the same thing.
Well, it's true. Another accelerator that I advise is the Manos Accelerator, and I've been advising in there for almost 4 years, and that one's focused specifically on Latino entrepreneurship. It's backed by Google and their entrepreneurship center. The founder is Sylvia Flores. She's an amazing lady, and I've been there. And I think they're on their like 6th or 7th cohort of startups. So I've seen probably 80 or 90 companies, and it's amazing to me the amount of talent that comes out of Latin America. In Mexico alone, I think 44% of the graduating degrees, I believe, are technical degrees, which to me is just it's like an insane statistic. Because if you compare that to the U.S., where it's like, I think it's like maybe 12%, what we're seeing is that there's this influx of amazing talent that can potentially disrupt Silicon Valley. But, and I like to call it, the brown wave of the future, because it really is. And as more and more founders are coming into Silicon Valley, they're starting to realize, like, hey, if there's going to be barriers here, there's always going to be an opportunity for me in Mexico. And I think now a lot of the funds and a lot of investors are basically just going straight to Mexico. Like 500 Startups is obviously in Mexico City, and there's a couple of other ones. But I think the talent is definitely there. But what they really need is the mentorship, right? They need a lot of the people who've done it before, a lot of people who've built companies in the past, and they just want to seek opinions. They say, have you seen this problem before? If so, how have you attacked it? Or how have you solved it? Or did you ignore it and it wasn't a big deal? Because really they just want to have someone that be a sounding board. But, I think ultimately Manos themselves, I mean, it's in the hand, it's in their name. They're there to, extend a hand. And, to me, that's some of my favorite work. And, through Manos, I met Xochitl Birch. Xochitl Birch is a woman who's married to Michael Birch. Xochitl and Michael founded a social network called Bebo.
Oh, yeah.
Back in 2009, and they sold it to AOL for, I believe, $800 million. And they were one of the first social networks to be acquired. The irony is they bought it back from AOL for $1 million a few years ago.
Oh my gosh! What a
no. I don't know about AOL having the best M&A specialist, but the interesting part about Xochitl is that she's a person who is from East Oakland, and I met her through Manos. She's also a founder of a social members club called The Battery here in San Francisco. The Battery is basically a collective of folks who are some in the industry, some are not, but it's basically a members club where I happen to be a member through her invitation. But in The Battery, you're going to see people on the level of, Mark Zuckerberg, to the people on the level like Stephen Curry, the basketball player, to artists, to comedians. And really what she's trying to create a collective of minds that she thinks is going to help, shape the future of tomorrow. And to me, her being a Latina from the Bay, and, moving to Oxford and getting educated in some of the best schools in the UK, and then meeting her husband and kind of having this story, to me, it's inspirational. So that's another thing about, when I tell founders and people who are really hungry, is like, surround yourself by people that inspire you, because ultimately they have some insight, or they're going to make some introduction that can really change the rest of your life. And to me, she's been that person. She's been really phenomenal to me. But again, it's all about aligning yourself in the right places at the right times with the right people. And I think you got to be really careful about who you surround yourself with, because it's those 5 people that you surround yourself with on a daily basis who really are and shape who you are.
Correct. Yeah, no. That's and again, this is also a platform for that. For inspiration. We want to find the next Mark Zuckerberg, which it's a topic of conversation. Like I say, we've seen a tremendous amount of potential in Colombia and Ecuador and Venezuela. The only difference that we see is that the stars are not aligning themselves. Like we have here in the U.S. The potential mentors with the talent, with the money, and with the not necessarily money, but the resources to make that happen. A project, go from A to C in no time. I mean, I want to see the next Uber being built in Mexico or in Madrid or out of Colombia, and I think we're gonna see it pretty soon. I mean, it's just a matter of time until we get those fine tunes, everything just set to the right caliber. And you're going to see just, that potential. I mean, I'm just coming back from Mexico, and I've been going back and forth. It's been amazing, the ecosystem, how the collaboration between other companies, something that didn't happen before, in my generation.
Well, I think the interesting thing about Mexico City right now is blockchain. I think blockchain is really an opportunity. I think the way that blockchain has taken off and, the crypto is really, to me, phenomenal. And obviously, everyone's talking about Bitcoin and Ethereum and all this stuff. And I mean, I'm a person who's had a crypto wallet probably for like the last 8 years. So I've been a bit lucky with that. But, I think the beautiful thing about that is that it gives an opportunity for people to exchange payments outside of their government's potential legacy systems. There's a company that I was actually advising called Saldo.mx. Saldo.mx is a company that essentially was solving the problem of sending money back to Mexico, right? So that problem is what does Western Union do? Western Union is, to me, one of the worst companies in the world. And I'm sorry, I hope they're not your sponsor.
No, they're not. And we're trying to solve the exact same problem. So yeah. I mean, we're trying to tumble down.
So you understand. You understand.
Oh, absolutely.
So he built his technology on the Ripple protocol, and because he said that, well, if I try to go through the banks, there's just so many ways that they want to interfere and really just take their cut.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think blockchain again is a disruptive force because people just think about it. Oh, it's people don't even spend their Bitcoin. They don't do anything with it. It was like, yeah, because right now it's so volatile that it's like I'm afraid to spend my Bitcoin because I don't want to lose my investment, or I don't want to potentially lose out on tens of thousands of dollars.
On the upswing,
if you really look, exactly. So if you really look at it, it's just a way for you to have a verified transaction. That's really what it does. It verifies it. It verifies that something happened at some moment in time in a certain way,
and it's all instant. Yeah.
Exactly.
And way more secure than any other technology. So let me make another break, with another of our sponsors, precisely Pork Bun. Si necesitas dominios de web, páginas web o comercio electrónico, es Pork Bun, donde tú puedes, encontrar todas tus necesidades para abrir tu empresa. Y todo el mundo ha escuchado de los dominios de .com, .net, .org, pero sabes que ya hay la posibilidad de nombrar a tu startup con un nombre un poco más catchy. Eso es lo que Porkbun hace. Contáctalos directamente en Porkbun, porkbun.com, /startup radio, y agarran su dominio web. Sorry, Armando, but yeah, I mean, this is we're talking about blockchain, and it's a fascinating chapter. I mean, again, we're also doing some parts of our protocol utilizing that to solve the problem for 50 million migrants here in the U.S. And it's been challenging, like you said, trying to work. Not work around the banking system, but just try to eliminate the inefficiency in the market, which are the banks, the clearing houses, especially trying to do a foreign transaction. So it's interesting to hear your perspective, and how, what's your experience with this technology, and what have you seen not only in the Valley but in Mexico, and try to use this type of technology to solve, a larger problem that we have in the community.
Yeah, and I think the interesting part is that even our own government does not know what to do. I mean, in January, the SEC said, you know what? Fine. You can have an ETF and you can have a trading house and trade crypto, but you have to remove the word blockchain from your name. And there was 3 companies that they specifically pointed out because those 3 companies were about to go into an ICO, right? An initial coin offering, right? And the initial coin offering, essentially, they curved and they stopped because of something simple as the word blockchain, to them it's very intimidating because it's going to disrupt their system in such a way that they really don't know what to do with it. Because if you look at, when I try to explain Bitcoin to my mom, I love her, shout out to Guadalupe, Meadow Osuna.
Saludos, señora Guadalupe Osuna. Un saludo desde Portland.
She's always like, Mijo, what is Bitcoin? Because she's actually she's a school administrator, right? Basically the head secretary at an elementary school in Logan Heights, and she's like, what is this Bitcoin? All the teachers are talking about it. I was like, well, Mom, if I gave you a $5 bill and a $100 bill, the only reason you believe that one is worth more than the other is because our shared illusion, right? And she's like, okay, but they weigh the same. It's the same paper. There's nothing different about it. But with Bitcoin, you have to solve a problem, and not only does this problem have to be solved, but there is a finite amount. So there is no infinite. The U.S. government could print dollars all day long. That's what causes the inflation and all these ups and downs. But really, Bitcoin is a deterministic way for you to that's solving this problem in the sense of, we know that it's real, we know that it's verified because it's simple math. Not simple per se, but it's mathematical equations that are ultimately giving us the answer, and someone verifies that someone gave that answer, and then they earn quote unquote a Bitcoin. And she's like, okay, so then so where can I spend it? I was like, well, that's another part of the problem, is that while these online retailers are now starting to accept Bitcoin, it's not until she's going to be able to spend it at the local supermarket that I feel it's really going to take off, and it's really going to be get to that point where ultimately she can really start to adopt it herself, because she's really interested. I opened up a Coinbase wallet for her. I put her first Bitcoin in there, and she just looks at it. She just opens the app and just looks at it. And I was like, Mom, you got to spend this. She's like, I don't want to. And why does it go up and down so much every day? I was like, because people are just holding it. They're not spending it. But yeah, so I think it's funny for her because she's at this age where, like, she kind of got forced into technology, right? Technology just kind of hit her upside the face, right? It's just like, oh, technology is here. I need a smartphone. I need emojis. I need to send text messages.
Facebook,
I need to download
Instagram.
Yeah. Oh man, and she's adopting it. A lot quicker than my father. That's for sure. My father just is learning how to send emojis, and so I'm like, Dad, I don't know what 4 birds and 2 caterpillars and a smiley face mean. He's like, oh, you don't? Oh, well, I don't know. I'm just sending you the emojis. So it's just funny to see how they're interacting with technology. Well, on the other end, I got my nieces and nephews, 8-year-olds, 9-year-olds, who are coding already, building their first apps, built their first computers. Like, it's insane. I'm kind of like in the middle where, like, I can see where my 2-year-old nephew goes up to the television and tries to swipe the screen like it's an iPad.
Yeah, I've seen that too. Yeah, with my daughters. Especially when they were younger too. Yeah, you're looking at the screens on the airports. I'm like, hey, this thing doesn't work. Like, no, honey.
Yeah, my parents are obsessed with the searching with voice.
Oh,
and I'm just I'm like, that really. Come on, type it out.
But yeah, it all revolves like you were saying in faith. That's what's called fiat money. Once we see that people really trust, and it happened with the credit cards. I'm not that old, but I remember reading about it, like how the credit card industry came about. Like, well, people are like, well, this is money in a plastic. I'll start swiping it, and look at us now. Obviously, technology is moving much, much faster. We're adopting, throughout all the demographics. Not only nationalities, but also age groups. Everybody's trying to adopt the latest technology, and once we prove that it's safer, that it's more convenient, that's when we see the real takeoff on a particular application. We're banking on this. We're really hoping that we're going to have a transactional application or transactional mode that doesn't require to go through many intermediaries. It's fast, cross-border, secure, and simple, and it's ready for the masses. So once we see that, it's just going to be I know it's going to be a bloodbath for the Western unions of the world, and we don't know what they're going to do. Quite honestly, we don't care. I just really, really hope that we can democratize technology. That's been kind of like our motto too here in our startup.
Yeah, I think that's definitely I think those types of values are very important because, when you look to hire people, you want to bring people who, the word culture is kind of thrown around a lot in Silicon Valley. And, culture is not, ping pong tables and shuttle buses and whatever else. Those are tactics. I think culture is when you really believe in the vision, right? Facebook's culture or, shared value was like connecting the world. And everyone who joined Facebook was saying, I'm buying into this. So, when you look at culture in the Valley, it's in a lot of ways, it's become something that people throw around in their deck, and they say, "Oh, well, yeah, we have a great culture at our company because every Thursday we have happy hour."
Yeah, we have beer in the fridge and
Taco Tuesday.
Yeah,
Taco Tuesday.
It's not, yeah, exactly, and it's really not that because, I've seen companies who are working on problems who essentially are now trying to quantify culture. Because culture, while it's a set of values, it's also a set of the people's personalities that go into a company, right? And those people's personalities and the teams that they're on make microcultures, and ultimately, they're gonna have this opportunity to really become this like well-built, well-oiled machine, in the sense that if I believe truly in what I'm doing and I'm really into it, whether it's a company that's delivering food because that's a logistics problem, right? Or whether it's a company who is, solving for, HR benefits. I think ultimately it's not about the product, it's about the people. And I think that's one thing where when I see a lot of decks and, in front of me, I see that word thrown around and I go, well, so tell me, what is your strategy? What is the culture of your company? And a lot of them, they just start to explain to me tactics. I was like, no, but what is your vision? Like, what are you really trying to do? And what are you really trying to change? And a lot of them sometimes don't have the answer. I think they just see it as a checkbox that they need to have when they're presenting their product or their business to, an investor. And to me, I think once we start to get away from that and really start to focus on the values, and because, ultimately I invest in people, right? I say, Edgar, this company may not work out, but I believe in you. And I believe that the next company that you do, you're going to hit a home run, or the third company or the fourth company or the fifth company. It's essentially believing that someone has that
the grit,
to make it happen. Exactly.
And that's something we stress here, and the learnings that we've had in the past couple of years, just pitching and building our company. We already have some investors, and we share this anecdote. Like, we went to our original investors and said, "Man, why do you believe in this? I mean, why? We hit a roadblock a couple of years ago trying to raise some angel capital just to keep, just to make this happen." And he just came with the nicest words ever said, to us. And like, look, I believed in you guys. We met through, on a lunch. I jumped and said, let's do it. I just believed in you. I don't know what, but yeah, it sounds great, your project, but I knew you were the guys ready to deliver. So like, hey, that gave us just the fuel that we needed just to keep going and, getting more no's and, getting other bumps in the road. And here we are a couple of years later, moving, growing. And it's been, that's what we wanted also to share with people. Hey, look, you're going to face all these adversities, but people need to believe in you, and you need to connect with that. And we're going back to the empathy part that you were mentioning, Armando, early on. You just know when you click with someone, even if you just met them.
Absolutely, and but I think ultimately also when you are looking to build your team, you want to have a balance, right? And not to say that there's no place for it to having And I don't like to use the word non-technical. I like to use the word business. If you have two business founders and you don't have a founder who essentially is helping you build that product, that is not a bad thing, because there are so many solutions now where you can essentially build a business and have an outsourced development team, but because you're ultimately still the one that's driving that vision. And, I think a lot of, especially at the seed stage, which is where I get in, I don't mind it. I think ultimately it's fine, because as long as you believe in that idea and you are creative enough to at least build a mock-up, build a prototype, build a V1 or at least an MVP at least, then, it's okay, because there are just I think the way that it's like you're saying, technology is being democratized, it's also being commoditized. Yeah. And so the development work, and I mean, it's so easy to spin up an AWS server nowadays. You could literally do it in a matter of seconds. It's so easy to, go on Upwork or go to TopTool or whichever one of these, companies are there to have freelance developers and freelance designers build your product, make it happen. Because I just want to see, do you have the creativity? Do you have the wherewithal? Do you have, the guts and the grit to really just say, hey, I am not a technical guy. I'm a business guy. I know exactly what I want to build. And I actually did it because in maybe this kind of like loose way, but ultimately I have something to present to you. And not only do I have something to present to you, but I also have traction. And that's the problem right now is that 5 years ago, where investors were coming in and giving you $1 million seed, you can basically raise money off a deck, right? You can raise money off some slides.
Yeah.
Now it's like they want you to have, or I want you to have, a few hundred users. I want you to have some traction. If you're a B2C product, I wanted you to have maybe people paying you some money. If you are a company that's in enterprise space, right? I want to see that. Yeah, you have some sort of recurring revenue. I'm not saying you have to have, 7 figures. I just want to see some sort of traction. And I think that's kind of where it's becoming a little bit tricky, a little bit tough. And, hearing from your own, story and hearing your own experiences, it sounds like you have that. So I think ultimately, I think you're doing the right things because that's essentially what does attract investors is saying, hey, they're doing it without us. They're doing it with or without us.
Correct.
And to us, that really speaks volumes, not only of your character, but it also speaks volumes of your product, that people are saying, hey, I really like this. And it's the social proof that a lot of investors like to see.
Absolutely. Yeah. We saw that early on. And, that was one of our early experiences when we started this fantastic journey, trying to go out there and do the pitching. And obviously we're not building a company. We're just pitching and then getting no's. And they're like, well, let's scrap this. We just wasted 6 months, 7 months out of our life, trying to attract investment. Let's just build it. Let's just go ahead, scrape it by, and build a product. You do the MVP. Do the first prototype, and show something that is actually moving. That proves our business case. And yeah, absolutely, we saw it here in Portland. I mean, we didn't have the resources to go to Silicon Valley, start pitching. I mean, we just wanted to keep it local. But that's that's also part of the learning experience that we want to share. And it's like, look, just don't focus too much on the investment side, because if you rely on the investment, then you're starting the wrong foot. I believe.
Yeah, and I think if you don't mind, I'm maybe going to spend maybe a minute or two just giving the listeners some tips on
absolutely
how to meet angel investors, how do you pitch them, and just really just kind of give them again. I don't want to say it's a 101, but I think it's the way that I've seen it work and the way that I've seen things happen. The first thing is you got to understand who are the types of angel investors, right? There's usually individuals or groups, and you can be part of a syndicate like on AngelList, because we're investing our own funds. What we're looking for is a person who has that confidence, right? Has that empathy. They're trustworthy. They don't have to have done it before, but ultimately, we want to see the right attributes and personality types. And most of the time, what you're going to do, even in your local city, I'm telling you, there are industry events that are there, either on Eventbrite, either on Evite, or maybe even on Facebook groups. You're going to just search, and you'll see that go to these meetups, meet the people, talk to folks. And I would say 95% of the people are going to be people pitching their product, and the 5% are going to be people that can invest in it. But ultimately, you want to position yourself, and they're by putting yourself in front of these folks. So, like I said, I think Eventbrite and Facebook groups are definitely a really fantastic way, and Facebook events are a really fantastic way for you to kind of just start to see what's around in your city. Obviously, online platforms, right? There's AngelList, but then there's also things like Gust, GUST. There's Angel Investment Network.us. There's US Angel Investors. So these are obviously places where you can go and you can see directories of these people who are obviously willing to look at your idea, look at it as an opportunity, because it really is an opportunity. That's really what you're saying, is like say, hey, I have an opportunity for you. I'd like to tell you more about it. And then, if you're going to really look at some events, there's Startup Grind. Startup Grind runs events. Man, I think they run it monthly around the world. If you're a younger person and you're in school right now, I'm glad you're listening, but most universities now have, kind of their own startup conferences or their own demo days. Usually they're run by the entrepreneurship program in the business school. There's also the ACA Summit. There's also the GEC CMO DISA Venture Train Summit. So there's a lot of, places that you can go to kind of, again, meet people who are like-minded. Then there's, of course, angel investment networks, and there's different groups. But, ultimately, when you're fundraising, and it's always good to have one or two advisors already in the back pocket, because again, what you're doing is you're telling us like, hey, I've already methodically thought about my idea. I've already approached people who I believe are thought leaders in the space, and they've aligned with my vision. And to us, and to me, that really tells me a lot. That tells me, hey, there's someone else who also believes in this person, who's also willing to put their name, their photo, their email on their pitch deck.
And some
which
skin
is a
in the
big
game.
deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big deal, because once I see that pitch deck and I see I look at honestly what I do, and I don't know if this is good or bad, but this is my thing. I go to the very end and I just look for the advisors. I say, all right, who's in it? And then I'll ping those advisors directly. Sometimes I'll back channel. Sometimes I won't. Sometimes I'll tell the founder, hey, I'll introduce me to your advisors. Other times, if I'm interested, but I want to, lead them on too much and get them too excited because I'm really excited, I'll just, I'll go to the advisors themselves directly and kind of get a background history.
It's just like a form of reference check. Absolutely.
It really is. It really is. And then, you also have to be a really good presenter. And that's the kind of piece where people sometimes tend to forget, is that there's going to be a time and there's going to be a place where you're going to have to present. And you got to know your stuff. You got to know the right, statistics. You got to know the right reference points so that you sound very educated in your space, because ultimately, we want you to know that you've done the research, and, you're going to be able to tell a compelling story, and one that's not going to drag on too long, right? We want you to get straight to the point. You're usually going to have maybe 10 minutes at these events.
Right.
And always cover the money. Don't say, oh, come up to me after to see how much money I'm raising. No, cover the money.
Right there. Yeah.
Right there. Because that's your time to shine. And too many, I see especially a lot of young entrepreneurs, they don't want to do the ask. Like, no, ask for the money, and ask for more than what you think you need, because it's never enough, right? Because you're always, it's just an angel investment, right? So always ask for more. You have to be prepared to answer these questions. And ultimately, you're not there to close a sale on the pitch. What you're there to build a relationship, because that's the name of the game.
Correct. Yeah, nobody brings the checkbook right there, unless, it's something extraordinary. But the rule is, it's just a presentation format, and you just want to get them excited about your product and come to talk to you. It's like, okay, now really want to learn more. But the basics you already covered. So, financials, which, again, I also stress this out, being also an economist and, coming from a financial background. It doesn't matter what your idea is, how sexy the technology is. An investor is looking to invest money, and he or she wants to see a return. So you ultimately, you're right, Armando. You got to cover that. Okay, your idea is phenomenal. You're a great guy or a great gal. I'm gonna give you money. How do I see my money back? You got to be able to answer those questions, because it's ultimately a money relationship. So we're coming to the end, Armando. Thank you so much, man, for taking the time, to get to know us. Where can people find you? Where can we send them to you?
There's a couple of places you can find me. One is on Twitter, and that's AO619. 619 is the homage to San Diego. It's the area code. You can also visit meadow.ventures, meadow.ventures. I have a contact form on there. Just send me a note. I'm also a person where I put my phone number out there, so you can always text me, 347-415-0867. I take unsolicited pitches every single day. I get decks every single day. I don't mind it. But of course, always introduce yourself. Say, hey, this is so-and-so. I'm working on this this product. I'd love to talk to you more about it. Very simple. If you're in the San Francisco Bay Area, always available to meet up for coffee. So, for the most part, if I can't help you, I'll find someone who will. And that's what the name of the game is. Silicon Valley is all about the connections and the connectors, and I really pride myself on that.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, man. And we'll be pinging you everything. We're going to post on Facebook, for people to see and be able to contact you. Armando, thank you so much again. Hopefully, you come to visit us in Portland soon, or the next time we're in San Fran, we'll ping you for coffee or beer, even better.
Yeah, even better.
All right, Armando, a pleasure. Thank you so much. This is Latino Founder Hour.
You've been listening to the Latino Founder Hour podcast with your hosts, Edgar Navas, founder of Cliqa, and Claudia Cardenas.
El programa Latino Founder Hour es grabado en las instalaciones de NetSpace en el estudio Bigfoot Podcast en la hermosa ciudad de Portland.
Our audio engineer, mixer, and podcast editor is Alon Beausoleil.
Diseñador de logo, Carolyn Main.
Our network logo was designed by Jessica Chan.
Diseñador de sitio web, Cameron Grimes.
Our production assistant is Chelsea Lancaster.
Tema de música, Funnin' and Sunnin' de Kevin MacLeod. Cree en ti mismo, sueña en grande y confía en el universo, de Marta Leticia y Silvia Romero.